He woke up with no name, no past, just strangers calling him a billionaire. She watched from the shadows, clutching a faded photo, whispering, "He's mine." The world called her a liar. But what if she's telling the truth? Hit the subscribe button as we uncover the love, lies, and secrets they tried to bury. The beeping was the first thing he noticed. Sharp, rhythmic, persistent. Then came the fluorescent glare seeping through his eyelids like a knife through fog. He opened his eyes, slowly, flinching at the sterile brightness above. A white ceiling, a moving tube hooked to his arm. Cold sheets. He didn't know where he was. More terrifyingly, he didn't know who he was. He tried to sit up, but his body felt like lead. Panic crept in, subtle at first, then a flood. He looked down at his hands. They were clean. No scars. No rings, just trembling. He glanced around the room. Machines, IVs, a heart monitor, hospital. But why was he here? Moments later, a nurse entered briskly, then stopped short, her eyes widening. "You're awake," she said, reaching for the call button. "I need to alert the doctors." "Wait," his voice cracked, dry as dust. "Where am I?" She paused, her kindness tempered with caution. "St. Clair Medical. You were found, unconscious downtown. Minor head trauma, but no ID on you. We're still trying to—" The door burst open. A tall man in a lab coat entered, flanked by 2 nurses and a security guard. The doctor looked at him like he was staring at a puzzle. "With missing pieces." "Good morning," the doctor said. "Can you tell me your name?" He blinked, his mouth opened, but nothing came out. "No," he finally whispered. I don't know." The doctor's expression didn't change, but he exchanged a quick look with one of the nurses. "It's okay," he said gently. "You may be experiencing retrograde amnesia, memory loss due to trauma." The next few hours blurred together. CT scans, reflex tests, voice recordings. Then someone mentioned facial recognition. Within minutes, a hit came back. "Alexander Cross," the doctor announced. Age 41, CEO of Arcosys Technologies. Billionaire. "According to records, you went missing 3 days ago." He stared blankly. The name felt like a foreign language. Billionaire, CEO, none of it made sense. If he was so important, why did his reflection, now visible in the glass wall, look so ordinary, disheveled, hollow-eyed, unfamiliar? "Are you sure?" he asked. Quietly, the doctor nodded. "We confirmed with biometric data. You're Alexander Cross. You have no criminal history, no known medical conditions, and no next of kin on file." But the door flew open again. This time a woman in a silk trench coat stormed in, blonde curls bouncing as her heels clicked against the floor. "Oh my God, Alex," she gasped, rushing to his side and clutching his hand. "Baby, you're okay." "I was terrified." He pulled away instinctively. She blinked at him. "It's me, Miranda, your fiancée." He looked at her like she was another puzzle piece forced into the wrong spot. "I'm sorry," he said. I don't remember you." Her face twitched just for a moment before she smiled and kissed his forehead. "That's okay," she whispered. "We'll get through this, together." Behind her, several people lingered. Bodyguards, assistants, lawyers, whispering, texting, organizing. A woman in a black suit discreetly handed the doctor a confidentiality waiver. He watched it all in silence, his mind blank, but for flashes that flickered like broken film. A hand reaching for his. A woman laughing under the stars. Wind in her hair. A whisper, "Don't let go." Then it vanished, gone like everything else. He sat back against the pillows, exhausted, surrounded by people claiming to know him, to love him, to work for him. But none of them felt real, and somewhere deep inside, buried under the weight of noise and names, something tugged. Someone was missing, someone he couldn't name. But her laugh had been real, and his heart somehow remembered it. The morning light filtered through broken blinds in the women's shelter, falling across rows of worn cots and tangled blankets. A coughing fit from someone 2 bunks down stirred Lena Harper, 38, awake. She lay still for a moment, staring at the water stain on the ceiling. Her back ached from the thin mattress beneath her, and the cold from the cracked window nipped at her skin. But her dreams had been warm. A hand holding hers, a voice promising forever, a man with eyes that once lit up just for her. She sat up slowly, pulling the thin hoodie tighter around her shoulders. Her once straight auburn hair was now unkempt, streaked with ash from years of sleeping on concrete. She reached into her boot, carefully pulling out a small zippered pouch, frayed at the edges, stained with time. Inside was a single photograph. Her fingers traced the worn edges of it as she held it up to the light. She was younger in the picture. So was he. They stood outside a tiny chapel, arms locked. She wore a sunflower yellow dress. He had a crooked grin, the same one she'd fallen for during those late-night tutoring sessions in her classroom. Back then, Alexander Cross was just Alex, a broke programmer who'd bring her leftover coffee and big dreams. Now he was gone. The static buzz of the shelter's ancient television snapped her out of the haze. A woman shouted from across the room, "Turn it up, that's him, ain't it?" Lena shuffled forward, squinting at the cracked TV mounted high on the wall. The screen flickered between static and a breaking news banner. Tech billionaire Alexander Cross found alive after mysterious disappearance. Her knees buckled. The camera zoomed in on his face, confused, pale, bruised, but unmistakably him. The newscaster explained he'd been found wandering downtown with no memory of who he was. Lena pressed a trembling hand to her mouth. "Alex!" The photo in her hand slipped to the floor, landing face up. A voice behind her cut through the noise. "Lena, don't." She turned to see Missy, her best friend and fellow sheltermate, arms crossed, a serious look in her eyes. Missy was tough as nails, always had been, always looking out for her. "You don't need to chase ghosts. Let rich folks handle rich people business." "That's not business," Lena whispered. "That's my husband." Missy sighed and sat beside her. "Even if he was, he's not the same man. Look at him. Private planes, security teams, a model on his arm. You show up now, they'll laugh you out of the building. Or worse." Lena's jaw clenched. "You think I don't know that?" "No," Missy said, softer now. "I think you're still hoping someone remembers you the way you remember them." Lena looked down at the photo again, then back at the TV. Alex, or Alexander now, was surrounded by people, but he looked lost. Empty. "I can't just sit here," she said, standing up. "If there's even the smallest chance he remembers." I have to try." Missy grabbed her wrist. "You do this. There's no undoing it, no running back here when the doors close on you. You ready for that?" Lena didn't answer. She slid the photo back into her pouch and zipped it shut. She didn't have money, didn't even have decent shoes, but she had a name, a memory, a love that survived ashes and time. She was going to that hospital. Even if the man inside didn't remember her, she remembered him. The hospital's sliding glass doors hissed open with clinical precision, welcoming the elite and shutting out everyone else. Lena Harper stepped forward with hesitant resolve, her hoodie pulled low, the worn fabric clinging to her like a second skin. The automatic lights inside flickered across polished floors and sterile white walls, reflecting in her tired eyes. She hadn't been in a place like this since her life fell apart, not since the fire, not since she lost him. A uniformed security. Guards stepped into her path before she could reach the reception desk. "Ma'am," he said firmly, "you can't be here." "I just need to speak to someone," Lena replied, holding her voice steady. "It's urgent." The guard looked her up and down, already judging, already classifying. "This is a private floor. VIP patients only." Lena swallowed hard. "Alexander Cross. He's here, isn't he?" The man's expression didn't shift, but another guard stepped closer. Lena's hand reached into her pocket and pulled out the photo, creased and faded, but unmistakable. "I'm not a stranger. I'm not a stalker. He's my husband." "That did it." The guards moved in. "You need to leave, now." "No, he's my husband." Her voice cracked as she resisted their grip. "Please, just let me talk to him. He knows me. He has to remember." The commotion drew attention. Phones came out. Someone recorded the scene, a disheveled woman screaming in a high-end hospital lobby, flanked by security dragging her toward the exit. "Let me see him," she cried, voice breaking with desperation. "His name is Alex Cross. He used to be mine." Doors slammed behind her as she was pushed outside. She crumpled to the curb, the photograph slipping from her fingers into a dirty puddle. A gust of wind carried it against the glass, sticking there like a forgotten ghost. Inside the hospital, in a quiet private room, Alexander Cross stared out the window, disconnected from the suits and screens surrounding him. He didn't know why he felt empty, only that the luxury around him offered no comfort. Nothing did. A nurse entered hesitantly. "Mr. Cross, there's something trending online I think you should see." She turned the tablet toward him. A shaky video played, crowds murmuring, security guards grabbing at a woman, and then her voice, raw, loud, desperate. "He's my husband. He's my husband." Alexander's body tensed. There was something about her voice, not just the panic, not just the words. It was in the way she said his name. Alex, not Alexander, not Mr. Cross. Alex. He leaned forward as the frame froze on her face, the eyes tired, wild, but familiar. He didn't know her, but somehow he did. "Who is she?" he asked, his voice low. "Some homeless woman," the nurse replied. "She was escorted out. Security says it's nothing, just some drama." Alexander kept staring. "I want to see her." The nurse blinked. "Sir?" "I want to see her," he repeated. "Bring her here." She hesitated. "That might not be the best idea. Your team—" "I don't care about my team." For the first time in days, his voice had steel in it. "Get her." The room was quiet, too quiet, like the air itself was holding its breath. Lena Harper stepped cautiously through the threshold, her scuffed sneakers silent against the polished hospital floor. The man she'd once called husband sat on the bed, upright, rigid, his sharp eyes tracking her every move like a stranger trying to solve a puzzle. He was clean-shaven now, in a fresh hospital gown, and surrounded by sleek machines humming softly. But beneath it all, she could still see him, her Alex. "Do you remember me?" she asked, barely above a whisper. He didn't respond at first. His eyes narrowed slightly, not in malice, but in confusion. "You're the woman from the video," he said finally, voice even. "I'm your wife," she said, stepping forward, holding out the faded photograph again. "My name is Lena Harper. We eloped 9 years ago in a town called Spring Hollow." He took the picture. His fingers grazed the paper like it might dissolve. Two people beaming under a crooked wooden arch, her sunflower yellow dress clashing against his blue flannel. They looked deliriously happy. "I don't remember this," he murmured, gaze fixed on the image. Lena swallowed hard. "You used to say memory lives in the bones, not the mind. You were always forgetful with birthdays, but never forgot how I took my tea." She took a slow breath, holding her emotions at bay. "You proposed with a shoelace. You said it was stronger than gold. We lost everything when the fire hit. Our little house, our baby girl, Daisy. You broke after that. You blamed yourself. Then one day, you vanished." He looked up sharply at that last word. "I thought you were dead," Lena said. "I searched for you until I couldn't afford to anymore." Alexander's hands trembled slightly. 1,000 images flickered behind his eyes, but none of them stuck. I want to believe you," he said. I really do. But I don't remember any of this. You could be anyone. Her heart cracked at those words, but she nodded. I know. That's why I kept this. She tapped her chest over her heart. Even if you don't remember me, I never forgot you. The door slammed open. Miranda, perfectly styled and fuming, strode in with the force of a hurricane. What the hell is she doing here? Lena stiffened. She has no right to be near you, Miranda barked. She's a liar, probably looking for a payout. She'll say anything for attention. She hasn't asked me for anything, Alexander said, voice calm but clipped. Oh, please, Miranda scoffed. It's all over the internet. Billionaire's homeless wife comes back from the dead? She's trending for all the wrong reasons. Our lawyers are already drafting a defamation suit. Lena turned to Alexander, tears brimming. I'm not here for your money. I just want you to know you were loved once, deeply, and maybe still are. After she left the room, escorted this time, but not thrown out, the media went into a frenzy. Pundits debated her sincerity. Tabloids tore her apart. Conspiracy theorists called it a marketing stunt. Photos of Lena crying in the hospital hallway made it to every gossip site. Gold digger, liar, lunatic. Back in his room, Alexander stared at the photo again. Something about her voice haunted him. Something in her sadness felt honest in a way no headline could fake. He should have dismissed her, but he couldn't, because even in the silence of his amnesia, there was something about her. Something that felt like home. The file landed on his lap with a soft thud, but the weight of it felt enormous. Alexander stared at the manila folder, the tab labeled in neat block letters. Personal history, confidential. His assistant, Jules, stood quietly by the window, arms crossed, avoiding eye contact. I had to dig through off-site backups, Jules said carefully. Encrypted, off-record. Someone went to great lengths to bury this. Alexander opened the folder. Inside were scanned police reports, insurance filings, and a fire marshal's assessment dated nearly 8 years ago. The location: Spring Hollow, Pennsylvania. The report detailed a house fire. Total loss. Listed among the victims: 1 infant, deceased. The owner, Lena Harper. A missing persons addendum followed. A man named Alex Harper, believed dead or voluntarily, vanished. His breath caught. His name was Alex Harper. There were also traces of sealed court motions and one particularly damning document, a non-disclosure agreement, signed not by him, but by his own company's legal division. It authorized payment to a private firm to erase public traces of an identity change. Jules cleared his throat. The suppression was authorized by your executive team, sir. Apparently, when Arcosis was going public, they didn't want your personal tragedy interfering with investor confidence. The narrative of a self-made genius was cleaner. Alexander's hands tightened around the folder. So they erased her. And me. Technically, Jules said, you erased yourself. You checked into a clinic under a pseudonym after the miscarriage. You disappeared for almost a year. The records are scattered, but I followed the trail. A sharp knock interrupted them. The door opened, and his legal counsel, Mr. Hensley, walked in, face already tense. I hear you've been reading, Hensley said. Alexander tossed the folder onto the table. Tell me it's not true. You were in a fragile state. We did what was necessary to protect your future and the company. You wiped out my past. You asked us to, Hensley said. You just don't remember. The words hit like a slap. You told us to make it all go away, Hensley continued. You signed the original waiver. You said she reminded you of everything you couldn't face. We honored that. Alexander's mind reeled. He couldn't remember signing anything, but he could remember something else now. It came in pieces. Hospital room. The beep of a heart monitor, Lena sobbing, curled against his chest, and himself, broken, weeping into her hair, whispering apologies into the darkness. I let her go, he muttered. I disappeared and let her grieve alone. That was then, Hensley said. This is now. I advise you strongly not to go digging into that life. Nothing good will come of it. Alexander looked down at the folder again, at the name, Lena Harper, circled in red. But he'd already started digging, and for the first time in years, he wasn't afraid of what he might find. He was afraid of what he'd left behind. The city lights flickered through the tinted windows of the unmarked black car as Alexander Cross sat in the back seat, hoodie pulled low, sunglasses pressed against his nose even though it was nearly midnight. He gave the driver the address twice, once aloud and once written down, just in case. No security, no press, no assistant, just him. The car came to a stop beside a rundown building with flaking brick and a hand-painted sign that read, Hope, Haven Shelter. He hesitated before stepping out. It smelled like damp concrete and old cigarettes. This wasn't his world anymore, but something about it tugged at the edges of his soul. He walked past the sleeping bags and bodies lining the sidewalk until he saw her. Lena, sitting alone on the curb, arms wrapped around her knees, staring. At the distant skyline, like it owed her answers, she looked up and for a moment didn't move. Alex, she whispered, as if afraid saying it too loudly would scare him away. He nodded, pulling the hoodie back. I had to see you. They walked without saying much. A few blocks down, they found a late-night taco truck, the kind they used to eat. At after work, when money was tight and dreams were big, they sat on a bench, unwrapping their food in silence. You used to drown yours in hot sauce, Lena said softly, watching him. He blinked. I hated hot sauce, she smiled. That's what you told people, but you always added it when no one was looking, said it made you feel alive. He chuckled, surprised by how easily the memory surfaced. Then another. Her laugh echoing in a tiny kitchen, flour on her nose, the sound of their wedding playlist looping in the background, her fingers brushing the hair from his eyes, the warmth of her breath when she whispered, I'll always find you. A rush hit him. It was like the past had been dammed up behind some invisible wall, and now the cracks were breaking open. I remember the creek, he murmured, eyes unfocused. The one behind the school. We carved our initials into the oak. Lena's hands trembled. Yes, you said that tree would outlive our regrets. His chest heaved suddenly. Pain, deep and raw, spilled out of him like a wound torn fresh. He covered his face with both hands, the sob erupting from a place he didn't know still existed. Years of numbness, of pretending, of forgetting. She moved closer, resting her palm on his back like she had so many nights before, when he couldn't sleep, when grief took the shape of silence. Lena, his voice cracked. I remember. She didn't say a word. She just held him. Back at the shelter, a few people stood at the doorway watching quietly. Whispers buzzed through the night air as they witnessed a billionaire break in the arms of a woman no one believed, and in that moment he wasn't Alexander Cross, tech mogul. He was just a man, finally found. The next morning, the world woke up to chaos. A leaked video splashed across every news channel. Lena Harper and Alexander sitting on a bench outside the shelter, his face buried in her shoulder, weeping. The footage, clearly zoomed in from across the street, was paired with audio commentary from Miranda, Alexander's fiancée. He's being taken advantage of, she told reporters, eyes glistening with crocodile tears. He's vulnerable. That woman knows exactly what she's doing. It's emotional blackmail. Lena's name trended alongside words like fraud and gold digger. Hate poured into her inbox. Death threats, memes, blog takedowns. She was every flavor of villain in a story spun by people who had never once heard her side. Alexander watched it all unfold from his penthouse, calm but simmering. And then he acted. At a hastily assembled board meeting, Alexander walked in alone, no security, no lawyers, just the truth. He dropped a stack of printed emails, texts, and PR planning documents on the table. "This," he said, "is proof that Miranda wasn't my fiancée. She was an image, a product. You," he pointed to two executives at the end of the table, "hired her to soften my reputation before our IPO. You sold me a fantasy and erased my reality." The room fell into stunned silence. One board member cleared his throat. "Alex, with all due respect, your recent behavior has raised concerns. We've had discussions about declaring you temporarily unfit for leadership." His eyes narrowed. "Because I found the woman you all tried to erase?" No one answered. That afternoon, Alexander and Lena stood side by side at a press conference, cameras flashing like lightning. "I lost a year of my life to memory loss," he told the world. "But it's clear now who's been manipulating me, and who stood by me when I had nothing. Lena Harper is not a con. She is my past, and possibly my future." Lena squeezed his hand, nervous but unflinching. No one said a word, because for once the billionaire and the homeless woman stood not as headlines, but as truth. The news broke just after sunrise. Alexander Cross, tech tycoon and industry disruptor, was stepping away from his company indefinitely. No warning, no corporate jargon, just a single statement posted on his verified profile. "Some things are worth rebuilding from the heart, not the boardroom." The world erupted with speculation, but it was his first televised interview, aired live 3 days later, that stopped everyone cold. He sat across from a top news anchor. No suit, no polished script, just a navy sweater and tired eyes. "I lost everything that mattered long before I lost my memory," he said, voice raw. "And when I had nothing, no name, no past, it was Lena who reminded me I was human. She saved me twice, once from the world, and now from myself." The footage cut to images of the once crumbling Hope Haven shelter, now surrounded by construction. Crews, new insulation, vibrant murals, and sleek solar panels. Alexander didn't just write a check. He showed up, helping paint walls, reviewing plans, asking each resident what they needed most. The man who once led boardrooms now laid bricks beside volunteers. Lena tried to keep out of the spotlight, but photos of her laughing with children, serving food in the new kitchen, and falling asleep on a cot beside an old woman went viral, this time with reverence. Flashbacks, now unlocked fully in Alexander's mind, began to haunt him in beautiful waves. Their wedding, just the two of them, standing in a sun-dappled chapel with ivy curling around the wooden beams. Lena in her yellow dress, him in a second-hand blazer. No guests, no music. Just a Bible, two trembling hands, and whispered vows. "No matter what happens," she had said, holding his cheeks, "I'll come back to you." He'd replied, "Then I'll make sure I never stop trying to find you." Now, those words echoed, louder than any stock ticker. What they'd lost was real, but what they were building again, under flashing cameras, skeptical whispers, and trembling hope, was something even rarer. A love not manufactured by power or perfection, but one reborn, brick by brick, in full view of the world. The road into Spring Hollow hadn't changed much. Dust still kicked up behind passing trucks. Mailboxes leaned crooked on aging posts. The small town welcomed them with the same sleepy charm it had offered a decade ago. Except this time, Alexander Cross was returning not as a stranger, but as a man trying to reclaim something precious. He and Lena stepped out of the car, hand in hand, as their shoes crunched softly against the gravel path leading to the old chapel, or what was left of it. The roof had caved in. Ivy smothered what used to be stained glass. The wooden doors lay half-detached, hinges rusted, but none of that mattered. Just beyond the ruin stood the oak tree, still towering, still strong, with initials carved into its bark. A Pluds. Lena ran her fingers over the carving and smiled. It's still here. Alexander knelt beneath it, pulling a small box from his coat pocket. The crowd that had quietly gathered, familiar faces from years ago. The retired school principal, Lena's former student, a woman from the diner, watched with bated breath. This isn't just a proposal, he said, his voice cracking. This is a restart. Not from wealth or fame, but from right here, where we first became us. He opened the box to reveal a red silk ribbon, folded carefully like an heirloom. Lena gasped. You kept it. I never let go, he said, even when I forgot. She dropped to her knees in front of him, laughter and tears tangled together. He tied the ribbon gently around her finger, just as he had years ago, and the crowd clapped as birds took flight above them, startled by the sudden burst of joy. There were no violins, no extravagant archways, just two people, raw and whole, standing beneath the tree that had once heard their vows whispered into wind. Music played from someone's phone, and the small gathering began to sway. There were no chairs, no programs, but it was the most sacred ceremony either of them had ever known. Lena looked at him through happy tears. I always said I'd find you, and I'll never stop choosing you, he whispered, holding her close. For once, the circle wasn't just complete, it was stronger. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, make sure to subscribe to Sir Kelly Stories and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment of truth, love, and redemption. Your next favorite story is just one click away.